Hello everyone, Squintina here, and I will be talking about my overall controller setup. This is not a dive into each job, rather it's an overview of some of my settings and overall playstyle. During battle, I use sets 1, 2, and 3. For certain content like Bosnia, I might even use set 4. Set 1. This is the set that is usually visible on my primary cross hotbar. If you're wondering how I have two cross hotbars, do not worry, I will explain soon. Set 2. This is my expanded cross hotbar. Expanded is a way to access a set by using both of your triggers together, and I primarily use it for AoE. To set it up, you go to Character Configuration, Hotbar Settings, Custom. There is a section for expanded controls. Whether you press the left trigger or right trigger first does matter. If you set these up like I have, that means starting with the left trigger will end up on the left side of set 2, and starting with the right trigger will end up on the right side of set 2. You can set this up to go to the same set and side to make order not matter at all. I do use a different order for gatherers, but not for my battle jobs. So on battle jobs, I just repeat my actions on the set so that order will not matter. Set 3. This is used for my double cross hotbar. That's the set on the top, and you can access it by double tapping your hotbar activator, your trigger. To enable it, you head over to Character Configuration, Hotbar Settings, Custom. You can pick between a style that has the full set and a style that has just the action buttons. I use the full set. There are more settings in the cross section. To use the double cross hotbar, you must use hold mode. To keep it visible at all times, turn on Always Display WXHB, which is double cross hotbar. I also have it set to position the double cross hotbar separately from the primary cross hotbar. There is a reason for this, so let's talk about my HUD layout. HUD layout. I like to put my gauge in between the double cross hotbar, which is why I need to be able to space it enough. I usually use simple mode, though there are some jobs where I don't do that. And Walker also introduced a new split for the status info bar. I do have mine set up to split into 4 groups so I can position HP, status, other, and conditional in different areas. Conditional is also in the middle, above my job gauges. Keeping track of cooldowns. The reason I am very picky about this is that I do not use visibility hotbars, for the most part. Some people will set up regular hotbars to have actions so they can keep track of cooldowns. I prefer not to do that, though I did make an exception for sprint. Instead, I use my job gauges, the conditional bar, and my always visible cross hotbars to keep track. This is actually why the expanded is used mostly for AoE. I never want to have to refer to my expanded to figure out a cooldown. For healers, I do have some other things like Repose and Suna, which do not have cooldowns, or things that are available with a full gauge. A small caveat for PvP. I do use visibility hotbars for PvP, but that is because I have a very different HUD layout in PvP. I take advantage of the lower action count to actually create a memory-based pattern because I pretty much only play one job in PvP, and that's Scholar. I sometimes will play some other jobs, but not often. I never look down at my cross hotbars in PvP when I'm on Scholar. Actually, the only reasons I even have my cross hotbars visible is because the game won't let me fully hide them without turning off controller hotbar support altogether. Sometimes I do drag them to the corner to ensure I don't look down there, but the reason I leave it in the middle is because I used to stream PvP and it would allow people to see what I was pressing. The visibility hotbars are not very good for an audience. I might make a whole video on my PvP setup at some point, as I do have some settings configured differently for PvP, but I will wait until after the rework is out because there's really no point in making one now. Anyway, back to talking about hotbar settings. So I explained set 1, set 2 and the expanded, set 3 the double cross hotbar and HUD layout. Let's talk about set 4. I don't use set 4 very much. It's really just for extra things in Bosnia and Palace of the Dead. When I do use it, I use the quick tap of the hotbar swap, which means I need to have it configured to skip sets 2 and 3, and that's in Character Settings, Hotbar Settings, Custom, Set Selection. In the customization for when weapon is drawn, which it would be during battle, I have it set to customize to Hotbar 1 and 4 only. All other sets are completely skipped. Set 4 will also be skipped if it's empty. This means no accidental hotbar switching if I didn't mean to press the hotbar switch button on jobs where I have set 4 empty. And for the ones where I do have set 4, it's a quick tap to get back to my primary hotbar. What about the customization where the weapon is sheathed? That's mostly for out of combat, and you will notice that it sets 1, 4, and 8. We will talk about 8 soon, but I might as well keep going in order. Sets 5 and 6. I don't really use them much outside of Fisher. I have multiple fishing setups because, as an achievement hunter, I have done a fair bit of fishing, and I have a bunch of macros so I can fish using my controller vibration without having to look at my screen at all. I won't go into it in this video, but my Fisher guide has some of my macros, and so does the text guide. In order to access these sets, I have to press and hold the hotbar switch button and then the button for the set, since they're not available in my set selection for the quick swap. Sometimes I might use sets 5 and 6 on battle jobs to place emotes that I'm going to use for a video or a picture and I don't want to forget later, but not really. For blue mage, I keep different versions of my primary and use swap macros, but that's only because I set up my blue mage before they added the ability for the spellbook sets to remember cross hotbar setups. Next blue mage update, I will probably be redoing it all from scratch and freeing up those sets once and for all. Now let's talk about set 7 and 8. Set 7 is a placeholder set for macros that swap hotbars. Here is a provoke macro that copies set 1 to set 7, then changes set 7 to have the regular provoke action instead of a macro, and copies that version back to set 1. It then swaps the set back after 3 seconds. The reason for this is to be able to spam the button without spamming the macro itself, thus allowing action queuing on the second hit. It also means no accidental party chat spam unless you spam it for longer than 3 seconds. I also use set 7 as a placeholder set for my macro menu. So let's talk about set 8. Set 8 is for my menu, which in PvE content is a macro menu. When I press a macro here, it copies a placeholder set in set 7 from one of my crafter or gatherer classes and puts it into set 8. Set 8 is the only cross hotbar that is a shared hotbar. So this macro menu is available for all my jobs and classes. I do have a video, actually 2 videos, on how to set up a macro menu. The special pet hotbar. This is very confusing, but there are 3 special cross hotbars. The pet hotbar display, which is used for special duty and quest mounts. It is not used for your job pets. I have that set to display on the cross hotbar. That setting at the bottom has a mistake in the English version where it says it replaces cross hotbar 1 with the pet hotbar. That's entirely false. This is actually a setting about keyboard hotbar set 1, and I have it turned on because I do sometimes play PvP on mouse and keyboard, and the Rival Wings PvP mode has duty mouse. Then there is the mount hotbar, which is used for your personal mounts that happen to have special actions. I have that turned on. Then there is the pet hotbar for your job pets. I have that turned off because if you turn it on and you have a job pet out, it overrides your set selection setting when you use your quick hotbar switch button. And I don't want that. I like to reduce the possibility of accidents, and I only want sets 1 and 4 in there. Besides, the pet hotbar is not necessary. Anything I need, I place directly on my job sets, because you can place them by going into the action menu. Last but not least are my L3 and R3. R3, as in clicking in the right analog stick, is set to execute macro number 99, and that is my sprint bolt macro so I can go fast. This is why sprint is the special case that gets a visibility hotbar, since it's not actually on my cross hotbars anywhere. Then L3, or my left click in, is a targeting macro in macro 98. I'm a healer main, and this macro allows me to quickly target the boss's current target while seeing the boss's attacks as a focus target. I have 3 versions of the targeting macro, one for DPS to target the focus target, one for tank to target a target's target, and this can be used to go to the main tank or to a boss, so it can be used for tank swaps in either direction, and then of course the one for healer that I just talked about. To be honest, the tank and DPS targeting macros are not that useful outside of content where there are multiple bosses that need to be targeted separately, and even then, it's only mildly useful at best. If I'm spending some serious amount of time as a non-healer job and doing content where I will actually need the DPS or tank version of the macros, then I will copy and paste the appropriate role macro into macro 98, but most of the time I don't even bother. And that's it! There are other settings I did not go over because they don't really matter to me, or they don't affect my controller play specifically. Let me know if you have any questions or if you want to share your setup to give other people ideas, as my setup will not be right for everyone. I will see you all next time for the healer job setups. Bye bye!